If a chance meeting with an enemy in the air presented little threat, flying was still a dangerous business. Aircraft and crews were being lost, both by enemy fire and in accidents. Planes were occasionally being brought down by ground fire. To soldiers looking up as these fragile machines passed overhead, the opportunity to pot away at them was irresistible, and if the pilot or some vital part of the engine could be hit, it was a good chance the craft would fall. By the end of the year, anti-aircraft batteries, at first machine guns and then later explosive shells, were being deployed along the front. Airplanes were often poorly marked, and it was not an uncommon occurrence for them to be fired upon by overzealous friendly forces. Accidents were by far claiming the highest number of flying casualties. Virtually all the aircraft serving were of pre-war designs, and the rigors of daily flying rapidly began to take its toll on these flimsy machines. Motors failed, undercarriages collapsed, and wings buckled with alarming regularity. The air crews found themselves operating from makeshift fields, often unsuitable for the demands required in aviation, and takeoff and landing accidents were commonplace. On both sides of the lines, engineers and designers were scrambling to improve the reliability and performance of their airplanes. Before the end of the year, some new types had been introduced and hurried to the front. The British and Colonial Airplane Company unveiled the Bristol Scout, a trim single-seat biplane of surprisingly modern design. With a top speed of nearly 100 miles per hour, the Bristol was ahead of its time and could have been a first-class fighting machine except for the fact that there was no way to effectively arm it. The Bristols would remain in frontline service until the end of the following year, when they would be relegated to a training role. The German aircraft makers offered improved versions of their Albatros, Aviatik, DFW, and Rumpler two-seaters, while the French were able to introduce more advanced models of their Farmans and Voisins. In Great Britain, a camera had been designed for aerial photography. The Flying Corps had assigned 3 of its officers to the task of creating a new photographic unit. Working closely with the Thornton Pickard Manufacturing Company, a camera had been developed that could take decent pictures from the air and have its film be quickly processed in the field. In the coming year, as the ground war dragged on, photographs taken above the front lines would prove invaluable. As 1914 drew to a close, troops on both sides hunkered down in the trenches facing each other across a no-man's land that extended from the Swiss border to the English Channel. Massed machine guns and miles of barbed wire made sure that nobody was going anywhere too quickly, while artillery fire made it remarkably unpleasant to sit still. During that first dreadful winter of the war, more soldiers in the trenches would die by pneumonia than by bullets or bombs. While the Western Front lay frozen and under snow, the generals occupied themselves with drafting plans for springtime offensives. Everyone seemed resolved to the fact that the war would continue for another year, and so it was that 1915 would see some of the bloodiest fighting in the history of mankind.